Welcome back to the Juicery series podcast. In our first part, I'm telling you, it's just been, as Mick says, fire. It's been off the hook. Let me just tell you, we were discussing thoughts and emotions. In our first part, and then we moved into some of the foundational tools and how illness is created. And now we're going to go into conditions.
Sounds good.
Yeah, conditions, and specifically conditions that I've noticed. Not to say that these are the forefront runners, and I also want to say the information that we're sharing today is neither true nor false. Excuse me, Mick. I think, and what I mean by that is, what I'm inviting our listeners to really do is to use and hear our information at a cellular level inside of your heart, and notice how it resonates with you. And if you find that it's absolutely resonating, apply it and try it in your life. Really apply it and try it. And if you notice that cause and effect experience, if you notice that you're achieving results, then continue to apply it. I think that's so
advice. Yeah.
is so important, because I think, Mick, nowadays there is definitely no shortage of information, and
there's plenty, yeah.
And hearing from all different people from all over, it's like, what do I do? Where do I go? And I think that's why the dialogue that we're having here is so important, because now we're going to share practical, simple, digestible information that somebody can go back to the table with and do on their own for free, pretty much.
Right.
Not like it's beyond them. It's like, okay, this is connected to this, and this is connected to this, and this is how I can get this moving in my life.
Yeah.
So the common ailments that I've seen here in Bermuda, not all, but just a few: diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, arthritis, what we call chronic fatigue syndrome, and more people coming on to dialysis.
Right.
Those are some of the common things that I see. That's what I do, and so let's just talk about a few of those here today, and some simple conditions and simple practices in which people can begin to turn that around.
Well, let's kind of look at the principles behind disease first. The basic principle of disease is that every health problem develops in a weakened area of the body. And whether it's direct damage or nerve flow restriction, a lot of people don't realize it, but there are many reasons why we develop nerve flow restrictions. And that's almost always the primary cause. The secondary is usually the liver not able to keep the blood clean enough, and so you develop those 8 items, those 8 ingredients we talked about before, that is the substance that disease is actually made of.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to make a cake, you could say, okay, well, what are the causes, and how do you make a cake? There's certain ingredients that make up a cake, but you can vary a few ingredients and make so many different types of cakes. Well, let's say we want to create a few diseases here, and we're going to work with natural principles of the body. Well, we need cause. Well, what is the cause? Well, the master cause is human self-destruct. And as we talked about earlier, because of the traumatic memories that we have in the brain and that we carry in every cell of our bodies, that is what inspires us to be self-destructive. Every adult knows we're self-destructive. It's just that, oh yeah, that has something to do with my health? Well, yeah, that's what causes us to create the self-destructive lifestyle habits. And at the end of the day, what we habitually do crystallizes in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
So we have all these. We have the cause. We have a physical cause, which might take a little bit longer to explain, but basically either through an assisted birth or an accident, learning how to walk or whatever, basically pretty well every one of us have a pivoted cranium, which creates tension down the spine one way or the other. Most people will feel right behind their earlobes here a lot of tension in the muscles. Well, the round muscles of the body that are in spasm will actually activate other spasms all the way down to where a person in their 80s will have spasm clear down into their calves. Well, those spasms reduce nerve flow to various areas. In fact, every person that has a chronic liver stress pattern is going to have tension between the shoulder blades on the right-hand side. That's consistent because that's the point where the nerve flows from the spinal cord to the liver and the gallbladder. And so there's things like that all the way down. The lower back is affecting the colon. It's affecting the reproductive area. And when you think about all these areas that can develop problems because of nerve flow restrictions, now things are starting to get complicated. You take you mentioned the chronic fatigue syndrome. That's kind of a fundamental basic issue because when the person starts out with constipation and then the lower back starts getting too tight, further reducing the nerve flow to the colon closes down and starts holding on to acid waste and recycling it. Okay, that's fatigue acids, and it makes the person feel tired. Now, when they go into the chronic fatigue syndrome, is after they've used willpower, sugar, and caffeine for so long to drive themselves through life feeling somewhat normal, then they go into adrenal exhaustion.
That's right, yes.
And when they hit into adrenal exhaustion, that's the chronic fatigue syndrome. If they keep struggling with that, now we're coming into a principle that we can apply to breast cancer, arthritis, bone spurs, and everything else. And that's what happens in the transition from the chronic fatigue syndrome to fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is basically a person with sand throughout the body. What is that sand? It's phosphates and calcium. Why? Because the whole body was stressed by the person's focus, feeling that life was too stressful. And so that is also the starting point for osteoporosis. All these calcified issues create osteoporosis because the body pulls the calcium from the bones as a sedation. Now this person, the body felt like, oh, the whole person needs to be sedated, so there's calcium put throughout the entire body. In time, that calcium will crystallize and become like sand. And this is a reason why you can't take a person with fibromyalgia and give them a good stiff massage. It's like massaging sand into their tissue. And so you have to dissolve that out. Okay, you take arthritis. Let's take arthritis. Generally, it's believed that the calcium buildup in the joints is the cause of the irritation. In reality, since the body is using calcium as a sedative, there must have been a stress beforehand. Okay, that would usually be tightness around in the base of the neck. If the arthritis is built up in the hands, the lactic acids are loading into the hands, causing irritation. The body is going to sedate that stress. It's going to use calcium. And year after year after year, that calcium builds up as a temporary solution, which then crystallizes and becomes an obvious cause. You talk about calcified breasts. How does a woman's breast calcify? Well, you can know that at least 10 years before that, the lymphatic system was stagnated, irritating the tissue in the breasts. So, of course, the body's going to pull calcium from the bones, sedate that stress, and calcify the tissue. Then if you harm that tissue in any way, you can mutate cells because you cause a swelling that reduces blood flow and oxygen flow. And remember, these are survival mechanisms, and those cells will do anything to survive. So technically, those cells that get damaged will convert from a tissue cell to a plant cell. Why do I say a plant cell? Well, because now they can take on carbon dioxide and carry on living. And at that point, as I mentioned in the first segment, it actually turns that mutated cell into a parasite. So it will thrive on low oxygen, low energy, and rotting food waste. And so what you need to do in such a condition, remember, cancer is a natural result of causal factors. It's an end result, natural end result. And so you take that condition now, what in the world would you do to turn such a condition around or avoid it? Well, remember that a cancer cell has to have a certain environment. It's got to have a weakened area, It's got to have poor circulation, low oxygen. We're led to believe that cancer is really tough to reverse. No, it's just that people keep the same environment
Yes.
and support it unknowingly. It's like mold. If I had mold in my hand and if I kept it protected well enough, I could keep that mold alive for a long time. But if I open my hands and allow the sun to shine on it, it's dead immediately. Cancer cells are some of the weakest cells in our bodies, but because we don't understand the principles of how the body became so septic and the circulation impaired and all these basic causal issues, it seems like it's very difficult to reverse.
It's going 1,000 miles a minute. I'm telling you, because it's like what I'm hearing you say is that every single thing is working in our highest good. Every single element, and as I'm hearing you speak, what's coming to me is the innate intelligence of every single living organism, every single aspect of our being, inside and outside us. Again, that's working in our highest good as well. And when we are aligned with that, the power that occurs in our own transformation, and not only our transformation, but the people who are experiencing the same common symptoms, how they're transformed as well. And that's why hearing you, I'm really overjoyed.
Okay.
Because of how just simple it is. Just how simple it can be.
Can be. Well, let's remember that the body is the most brilliant self-repairing mechanism in the world, and it's been driven to survive for thousands of years. It's brilliant. Now, when you stop and think about that the body has been forced to learn how to heal every type of damage and disease that there's ever been. Why isn't it able to keep up now? This one will blow your mind. It's some fantastic modern day inventions that we appreciate so much. Now, you take the light bulb. Fantastic invention. We rely on it so much. But 150 years ago, along with the programming of the body, about 30 minutes or so after the chickens went to bed, we went to sleep. Now, because of light bulbs, all of our lives, we don't know anything better. But the cellular programming knows that we're supposed to be going to bed about a half hour after the chickens go to bed, and we extend our lives by 3 or 4 hours a day. That is stress. That is terrible stress. But we didn't realize that. We don't know of life any other way. Mm-hmm. And these chairs, they're wonderful. Never in the history of the world has there been so much sitting.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Which creates what I call sitting disease. Even to transport our bodies, instead of walking, we sit to transport from here to there. That's creating sitting disease. Now, what's wrong with that? Well, when you sit too much, it relaxes the lower back muscles. Lower back muscles getting weak, they congest. Once they congest, that's a stress. So what does the body have to do? Pull calcium from the bones and sedate it.
And what did you tell me? Because Mick told me when I went to go see him, Mick told me I need to row. I was like, what do you mean, Mick, I need to row? He said, yeah, Preston, you need to row. Because he said, obviously, my core's not strong enough now. So
what? Your lower back?
But my lower back. But isn't that all a part? Is all a part of the same thing? Like
you get the core, but most people don't realize that the actual back muscles, walking isn't quite enough anymore because of all the sitting. So you've got to have resistance coming back to strengthen those back muscles. When they get strong enough, then they can detoxify themselves. Then that will reopen the nerve flow, because what we're talking about here is the direct and immediate cause for all prostate problems. It's like the lower back, when it gets weak, loads up with calcium, contracts, reduces the nerve flow, not only to the colon, but also to the prostate.
So what I'm hearing you say is a weak lower back can lead to prostate conditions.
That's it.
And see, guys thought it was something completely different all this time when they just needed to do some rowing.
Actually, I wrote an article years ago. I said, it was for golfers, and I said, overcome your prostate disorders by improving your golf swing. And they do the rowing and twisting, stretching, and everything. And once they open that
rotational
nerve
movements,
flow,
yes,
so they get a better golf swing, guess what? The prostate gets better. Because that's the direct and immediate cause for all.
So say that again. Say that again. Say why, for those who may have missed it, and they can go back, but just say that why your lower back is so important to your prostate.
Because when it gets congested and the calcium sedates that congestion, which is stressful, it will tighten and reduce the nerve flow from the spinal cord to the colon, the prostate, and this whole lower pelvic floor. So the rowing will decongest the muscles, open up the nerve flow, and re-strengthen all of this area. Now that's the primary. The secondary is the filtering system again, because remember, disease is made of those 8 ingredients. And so the body will use any weakened area as a dumping ground. And if the brain sees that the liver can't keep the blood clean, it's going to look for a weak area to dump that excess to clean the bloodstream. Same thing happens on a woman when the body sees, we're having a period every month. Hey, we can clean the bloodstream that way. And then when the reproductive body on a woman can't clear it completely, then the body very brilliantly will create little trash cans called fibroids, cysts, and tumors.
So again, what I'm hearing you say now is pretty much beyond, and keeping in alignment with thought and emotion, being the two primary, or the one primary leading down to the physical. That in the physical, in the plane of the physical, what's coming to me, it is all related to toxins, our own toxins being moved throughout the body or not being released efficiently.
All the doors and windows are closed. It's cycling, yeah.
And if we just start clearing that out, then we'll see where that can go.
Clear the filters, get the exhaust system going, and then clean the blood and the lymph through the skin with detox baths. And what is the body going to create disease out of?
Mick, as I'm hearing you say, and I'm going to really just talk about it, coaching throughout these years, not as many as yours. Totally not as many as yours. But let's say a decade, not 40 plus, but just say a decade. And you're sharing something so simple. And it's like, no, It's like, and this is a self-destruct, I gotta choose a harder way, because the way you're telling me is nothing that I've ever heard before, and I just can't believe that. I can't believe that if I do a detox bath, I do some rowing, and I, clear my gallbladder, then I'm gonna be all right. It's like, no, that's just too easy for me, because it just seems so hard, because my life has been so hard. I've never known anything to be easy, so I have to choose.
Life provides us, as we've heard all of our life provides us exactly what we expect, no more and no less.
Come on now.
Where does our expectation of life come from? It's got a momentum 3 generations back. If life beat me up yesterday, what am I going to expect of today? And you're telling me I can go it the easy way? I don't believe you. Because everything in me says life has to be more difficult, and the brain is even wired that way to make sure that we do it the hard way. Life says, you want to do it the easy way or the hard way? Hell, we'll take the hard way again. Automatic.
So in that, I'm hearing that people, for true healing to occur, it needs to be a dying to our belief system. Like a dying to whatever it is that we thought was good for us, and to be able to be open, maybe
open the mind to the possibilities that maybe there's an easier way. And see, that's the insights that I could provide, because it's kind of like you look down the same road long enough and you're going to notice everything down that road. Well, looking down the road of health and disease for 40 years, watching what works and what doesn't work, and then fine-tuning and simplifying what does work. Right now, in my mind, it's laughable, because through the health screening, I've seen every pattern possible thousands of times. 30-some years ago, I was directing one of the cancer clinics in Mexico, and I saw the very worst that there ever is. I've seen so much of that turned around. And there isn't a pattern that I see in the blood that I can't help the person to understand all levels of cause for why that exists. And if you clear that out, you don't have to wait 10 years down the road to be diagnosed. That's the key to it, is understand the levels of cause, reverse those, then you don't have to wait to see what you're developing. Because a person that is completely healthy, truly healthy, has no need of treatment, and disease cannot develop in their body. If they're truly healthy, disease cannot develop in their body. So that's my goal for every person, is to teach them the principles of health and disease, and coach them and help them to create a level of health where disease can't even exist.
So be it. And so it is. And family, thank you for staying with us. Juicery Podcast series. And when we get back, we're going to be talking about the context of nutrition.